Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, wherever you are. I'm super excited to welcome you all in this masterclass on mindfulness meditation. My name is Sanjay Bhasin, and I am an author, a success coach, an entrepreneur, and also host for this webinar. What I mean by host is that I will be asking the questions, and the expert, the master, the guest presenter will answer all those questions. Before I begin, I just want to check whether do you hear me well? Just
Yes.
use the chat, just use the chat button and answer me so that we can just start it. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see some of the familiar faces here. Even though I cannot see the faces, but I can recognize you by your names. First of all, thank you very much for taking your time and coming here. Greatly appreciate. So we all know that how important is meditation, especially these days. When everyone is stressed out, there is a lot of negativity, a lot of negative news spreading out everywhere. And meditation is a powerful and natural way of treatment for those people who suffer from depression, anxiety, and stress. Because meditation improves your health by strengthening your immune system, by reducing your blood pressure, and also it lowers down your cholesterol level. And there are many benefits of meditation, basically. Some of the benefits you can see. By controlling your anxiety, enhancing your self-awareness, slowing down the aging process, making you more confident, controlling anger, improving concentration, improving memory, and so many other benefits also. So let me ask you this. How many of you are excited to learn something new today? Just use the poll. I think you can see a poll on your screen. I think everyone is interested and everything is excited to learn something today. Thank you very much. So now it's time to introduce you to the guest speaker, to the guest presenter, and who is a international meditation and mindfulness teacher. He has over 20 years of experience, and he has learned various meditation techniques from the masters like Dalai Lama, Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, and many more. And he's teaching meditation and practicing meditation across US, India, and Nepal. And he is Anthony Profeta.
Hello, everyone.
Anthony.
Hello, thank you for being here. It's an honor for me to be here with you and with all of you, and thank you for putting this together. I'm excited to share some knowledge about meditation And yeah, I totally agree with you. It's needed in this time to help boost our immunity, to help with our emotional, physical, mental well-being. And the one thing that you didn't share was that my background actually started in medicine, traditional medicine, where I was going to become a doctor here in the United States. I was at medical school in New York working on that path. But according to the American Medical Association, which is the governing body of medicine in the US, their research and their studies prove that 80% of all illness and disease in this world, the number one root cause is stress. Stress is the number one factor to 80% of all illness. And so I didn't just want to be someone who's like prescribing or a medication or anything like that. I want to help people get to that root cause. Because sadly, what we typically do here in the United States is we treat symptoms. And if you have a stressor that's creating a symptom and you just write a prescription that takes that symptom away, then what happens is the stressor says, hey, you didn't do anything about me at all. You left me here. And if you leave me here, but you mask the way I was showing myself, then I have to go to another organ system in another part of the body and begin to create disease or illness somewhere else. And I didn't want to just be a doctor who kicks the can down the road, waiting for their patient to come back again with problems later on. I wanted to help them get to that underlying root cause of illness, which is in 80% of the case is stress. And there is proof now by over 6,000 published articles by some top universities such as Harvard, Duke, Yale, Wake Forest, that scientifically prove and demonstrate meditation does get to the root cause of illness and disease by giving us the tools to de-stress the body naturally. And so I began to take a much more holistic sort of turn in my life and began to share these practices with many people, like you said, all around the world.
Thank you very much for the insight, and thank you very much for the introduction. We are very happy to have you here. And I think me and all the people here want to learn something new today. And maybe we can start the webinar by asking the questions. Will that be okay?
I love that. Yes, definitely.
Okay, so my first question is, because I think it will be the question for everyone wants the answer for this question. How to start meditating and how long until I see some results?
All right, that's an excellent question. Ideally, they say that we should be meditating for about 20 to 30 minutes a day. And if you can do it for your morning and your evening, so you're starting your day and ending your day with 20 to 30 minutes, that would be ideal. But if someone is new to meditation, if someone is just beginning the practice, then I always recommend to them to start at your own pace and to start slow. Because if we're to force ourselves to try to sit for 20 to 30 minutes when we've never tried to meditate before, for some people, it can become frustrating and it can feel forced. And if we go into it and we're just trying to force ourselves to sit here and sort of like push through the practice and we're getting restless or anything like that, it can become frustrating and we might give up. So I always recommend to start with what's comfortable for you. Start with 5 minutes or start maybe even with a minute or two and then build yourself up from there as you get used to being able to sit for an extended period of time. What is really most important when it comes to beginning a meditation practice is really consistency. We want to be able to practice each and every day because that's really when the benefits will begin to unfold for us. If we were to meditate for about 30 minutes today, and then we meditate for 30 minutes next week, and then we meditate for 30 minutes next month, it's really not going to do much for us. We want to have that consistent practice where we're just meditating a little bit every single day, each and every day. It needs to become as regular as brushing your teeth and taking a shower for the benefits to really unfold for you. Now, your second part of the question, when will I begin to see results? That's a sort of difficult question to answer because every person will develop with the amount of time and dedication that they put into the practice, but results will be happening. Now, I can share with you that there is research by Harvard which says that after 8 weeks of practice, your mind actually, or your brain, I should say, not the mind, but the brain actually begins to change physically. So you actually begin to grow new neurons. You begin to increase your gray matter. You begin to increase your white matter. And so you begin to have an actual totally new brain in your head in just 8 weeks of practice with maybe about 10 to 20 minutes a day. So those changes will begin to happen after 2 months. Now, you won't see that because you're not looking into your own head. But I guarantee that if you are practicing daily, you will begin to see new things happen. You might begin to manifest more patience throughout your day. Or maybe if you notice that you are sort of an angry person, maybe you're noticing that you're not as angry as much. Or the other thing that might happen is you might not see the change, but the people around you will. So the people that you see on an everyday basis, whether it be your family or the people at work, they might say to you, hey, what are you doing? You seem a little bit more peaceful, or you seem a little bit more calm, or a little bit more relaxed. And that's a good barometer or a good measuring stick to say, oh, something is working for me.
Thank you very much for the explanation. And this is very, very interesting, actually. Let's take the other question. How long should I meditate for? Actually, I think you have already answered this, that start with small and then gradually increase the time. So that is already been answered, right?
Yes.
And what are the best postures to meditate? Is it okay to meditate in a bed to build a habit?
Hopefully we can meditate in any position. Hopefully we can meditate when we're laying down, when we're sitting up, when we're standing, in any posture that we're in. Ideally, though, they would recommend, if you do not have a legitimate back or neck issue, that we should sit in an upright position. So sitting upright with our back a little bit straight. Now, it doesn't mean we need to be sitting stiff or tense in any way. If we were to do that, we're just really going to exhaust ourselves. But you just want to be aware that maybe the nose is in line with the navel, ears are parallel to the shoulders. And one way they often recommend it is that, or one way they might often describe it, is to say sit in what is referred to as a dignified posture. Just sort of that you're sitting with a little bit of dignity, upright, whatever that sort of means to you. The problem with laying down is if you don't have a legitimate back or neck issue, as the body is in a laying down or prone posture, we begin to send signals to ourselves that we're actually trying to go to sleep. And so rather than getting into a meditative state, we often slip straight into a sleep state. Now, at times that can be okay because maybe we're exhausted, maybe we were, doing a lot throughout our day, and we might need the sleep to help us refresh ourselves and rejuvenate. But we don't want to fall asleep continually every time we try to meditate. We want to work through that. And sitting upright, I'm sure you heard of the term body language, where we send signals out, and the way we carry ourselves and hold ourselves sends signals to people. And here in the United States, police officers and other military, they actually take body language courses in order to read people's body language. But if we're seated upright, we are actually sending signals inwardly. So the body doesn't only communicate outwardly, it also communicates inwardly. And when we're sitting upright, we're trying to say to ourselves that we want to be alert, we want to be attentive. And when it comes to meditation, that's something that's very important. While the body's relaxed and calm, we want to find a position to sit in. So many people aren't, in the United States at least, used to sitting in the ground with their legs crossed, full lotus posture or anything like that. So you are more welcome, very welcome, to sit in a chair and just sit upright in a chair with your feet flat on the floor. And when we're sitting upright, we are sending signals to ourselves that we're trying to be alert. So while the body's relaxed and calm, your consciousness, your mind, is actually trying to be very aware, alert, or attentive to something. And that something is referred to as the object of meditation.
Great, thank you. Can you meditate with your eyes open?
Yes, you actually can. Now, the majority of people do prefer to meditate with their eyes closed because it helps to turn your senses inwards, and it helps to lessen any distractions that might be happening around us. However, there are some people that you close their eyes, they're in the dark, and they begin to send signals to themselves that they're trying to go to sleep. And so they get very, very drowsy, and they might begin to get tired. So what you can do in that case is you can open your eyes to bring in some light. And you can meditate with eyes open. They would say if you meditate with eyes open, though, your eyes should be maybe a quarter of the way open or 3/4 of the way closed, however you want to think of that. So you're just bringing in a little light. But there are other methods of meditation that actually meditate with their eyes fully open. But usually what they do is they focus on something, maybe like a blank wall or just one point, so that they're not getting distracted by other things that might be happening around. But you can meditate with your eyes open or closed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me just ask the people a little poll, actually. How many people here meditate? Just use the poll and answer this question, please, so that we can better understand. Only 5% people meditate daily.
Daily. That's good, though. But we got 50% that meditate occasionally, so that's excellent. That's excellent. And then the others that are here, I guess, are curious about it, so that's wonderful.
So let's take the other question, actually. What is the best breathing method for meditation?
That's an interesting question, because depending on the tradition or the philosophy or the method, there are many different breathing activities. So one of them that was taught by the Buddha and Buddhist philosophy is one called breath awareness, or the Anapanasati Sutra, in which they just breathe. They're not controlling their breath. They're just noticing the body breathe. So they're just being aware of the sensation of breath. They're noticing the inhalation and exhalation that's moving in and out of their nose, and they're just trying to focus on the process of breath happening. Now, there are other methods which typically come out of the Hindu tradition and Vedic meditation, in which they do breath exercises, which are sometimes called pranayamas, in which they are controlling the breath or breathing in and then exhaling out of the mouth. And there's many different ways to do breathing meditations. So when you say what is the best method is the one that works for you, or the one that resonates with your personality. Because the thing about meditation is that there are thousands of ways to meditate. There's mantra meditations, there's mindfulness meditations, there's visualization techniques, there's meditations where you're staring at a candle flame or a picture of a saintly or holy person. In fact, the very first year I went to India to study meditation, I went to study something called Kashmir Shaivism, and I went to study it specifically because they teach 112 different methods of meditation. So we have 112 there. Within the Buddhist text, the Buddha himself taught over approximately 40 methods of meditation. So right there, we have 152 different ways to meditate. And so that is important to know, because if there was just one method of meditation, it wouldn't help every mind that's out there. There's 7 billion different people in this world. And not every person, likes to play golf or play tennis, or not everybody eats steak, not everybody eats sushi. So there isn't a best meditation for every single person. The best meditation is the one that works for you personally. And you might need to try a couple of different methods until you find the one that just resonates with your particular personality. Some people really enjoy sitting.
The best breathing method.
Okay. So the best breathing method that I was saying was that it's really the one that works for the person. So you might have to try a couple of different breathing methods of meditation in order to really find the one that works for you. There are thousands of different practices out there, and some people might just prefer to just sit in silence and observe the body breathe. Some people might prefer to really do a controlled breath, like a pranayama exercise in which they're, or a Kriya Yoga meditation in which they're really doing like breath of fire or something like that to help them concentrate and oxygenate their blood and all of those sort of things.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, should I always meditate in the same place?
Well, they believe that you should because it's believed to generate a sort of energy in the space or the area that you might be practicing. But I do know that sometimes in our life we get busy, or sometimes we're not able to maybe go to that same particular place every day, especially if like we travel a lot for work. So you should just meditate wherever you can do it. But if you go back, if you have a place in your room, or you have a cushion in your room, or a chair in your room that you meditate in every single day or as often as you can, it is believed in many traditions that you begin to impart a very good energy to that space, and which it can help you just to get into a better meditation.
Okay, good. So, what to do when the body itches during meditation, or when my mind keeps playing songs?
There are a couple of ways to think about this. One, if your body itches, scratch it. But they would say don't do it right away. So the default state of our mind is to say, ooh, an itch is happening, and this itch is going to be really bad in about 5 minutes. So let me scratch it now to make sure, it doesn't get bad. But the question is, how do we know that? How do we know the itch isn't going to go away in 30 seconds? Or how, maybe it might rise and fall. So they would say that if you notice an itch or something begin to arise, then just observe it for a moment or two mindfully, and really try to experiment with what that really does feel like. Is it a pulsing? Is it a tingling? Is it a throbbing? And then, of course, if you have to scratch the itch, then scratch the itch. Now, with the thoughts in our mind, that's another sort of issue that many people have a common fallacy, that they think that we need to empty our mind or have no thoughts or battle with the mind in order to suppress thoughts in our meditation. And that's actually not true. We should never be fighting with the mind. We should never be struggling with the mind. And what we're trying to do is develop a new relationship to thoughts. And what I mean by that is thoughts are going to arise. So thoughts arise within us, and what we can do is we can watch them, or we can notice them just arise and pass away. A common metaphor is watch the thoughts move through the mind like clouds passing through the sky. Now, as we begin to build up our concentration and focus, which is what meditation does, when you are focusing on an object of meditation, whether it be the breath, or whether it be a mantra, or whether it be a candle flame, what we do in meditation is we put our awareness, we put our consciousness upon the object, and then whenever the mind wanders, we gently and lovingly bring it back to that object again. So we keep returning back to the breath or the mantra over and over and over again whenever thoughts do arise. And when we're doing that, what we are doing is we're cultivating the mind's ability to concentrate and focus. We're strengthening the attention muscle. And so we're learning how to concentrate, we're learning how to focus, and we're developing what in many meditation traditions is known as a single pointed mind. A mind that has the ability to stay where you want it, when you want it there, for as long as you want it there. And when we begin to develop that, what does happen as a byproduct is the thoughts begin to lessen. The mind begins to quiet. So thoughts, the wandering thoughts typically are thoughts that go off to thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future. And so what begins to happen as the mind begins to concentrate is the wandering to the past and the projection into the future begins to subside. And so the mind does become stiller or quieter. And so the thing that you can do is that when thoughts do arise, just gently and lovingly and with patience, return yourself back to whatever you're trying to focus on in your meditation.
That was very useful information. Actually, I think that's a common problem for many people who try to meditate or who meditate actually.
Absolutely. It is the number one question I get when I'm teaching meditation is, how do I stop my mind from thinking? And what we're trying to do is, we're not really trying to stop the mind from thinking. We're trying to teach it how to concentrate and focus. And then the thinking and the thoughts do begin to lessen because your concentration is being built up.
What should I do if I keep falling asleep while I meditate?
Okay, when it comes to meditation, there are considered to be 5 obstacles that we have to overcome. And one of them is drowsiness, sleepiness, or falling asleep. If we keep repeatedly falling asleep in our meditation, there are some antidotes to overcoming that. One is that you can open your eyes. If your eyes are closed, open your eyes, bring in some light, take some deep breaths to oxygenate your blood and oxygenate your brain and oxygenate your body, so that you can maybe get out of that sleepiness and drowsiness. Another thing that you can do is stand up and maybe do a walking meditation in order to bring some movement to the body, and you can try that. Other methods that you can do, you can stretch if you need to, or splash some water on your face and then come back and try meditating again. My teacher, Jack Kornfield, who's now teaches out in California here in the United States, one thing that he was taught by his teacher was, he had a big problem falling asleep during meditation. So he went to his teacher, and this was when he was living over in Thailand. And he said, I keep falling asleep. What can I do about that? So his teacher told him, okay, there's a well out at the end of our monastery. I want you to go sit on the edge of the well when you meditate, because the well was 200 feet down. So if he knew he had to meditate there, he wasn't going to fall asleep because he would have fell down the well. But now we don't have to do anything that drastic, but it is necessary for us to try to overcome our sleepiness and our drowsiness when we are in meditation, because meditation is trying to keep the mind alert and attentive to whatever the object of meditation is. So like I said, it could be something as simple as just opening your eyes. But another thing that the Buddha taught was, we can imagine ourselves breathing in and taking in or being filled with light, like a light from the sun or a light from somewhere, so that that energy of the light itself can help to energize us. So that's another little trick that you could try.
Okay, great, Anthony. Thank you very much for this information. Very useful. And
So well.
How do I know if I'm meditating the right way?
The right way. That's another common question I get. Am I meditating right? First of all, no one's meditated with your mind before, so there is no right way for everyone. But what you want to just make sure is that your body is relaxed, your mind is alert and attentive to whatever the object of meditation is. And then the only agreement you're making with yourself is that whatever you're trying to focus upon, whether it be the breath, whether it be a candle flame, whether it be a mantra, whether it be a visualization technique, is that whenever the mind wanders, you're just gently and lovingly refocusing it. You're bringing it back to whatever you're trying to meditate upon. And that's it. I mean, it's fairly simple to describe, and it's fairly simple to talk about, but it's not always that simple to do, because the mind is a hard thing to sort of control and tame. The Bhagavad Gita says that the mind is restless, but it can be controlled through practice. And that's really all it's about, is just continuing the practice and bringing it back over and over and over again to whatever the object is. And that's really just the right way to meditate. It's just pretty much that simple.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just seeing some of the messages I have received. Actually, some people are facing some problem with the sound or some problem with the picture. Actually, I'm just asking you all, do you have any problem hearing us, or Anthony, or are you able to see us clearly or no? Just answer through the chat button, please. Is everything okay? Okay, right now, no problem. I think it's okay. Yeah, very good. We have a question from our one of the guests actually, Maria.
Okay.
Maybe I can take a question. I have a 15 years old daughter with ADHD. I have been recommended meditation for her. How long should she start?
For a 15-year-old, she should start slow, and she should start with maybe just a couple of minutes at first. Like, I would probably try to start her with 5 minutes, especially if, depending on how severe her ADHD is. But I wouldn't push her, and I wouldn't force her to sit very long too fast, because her racing mind and her attention deficit can cause her to actually get restless. So it's better to just start her at a comfortable pace and slowly and gradually work up from there. But yes, it can be very, very helpful, meditation and mindfulness practices for someone with those sort of illnesses and disorders.
Okay, I think Maria must have got her answer actually. If she has any other questions or anybody else in this webinar has some questions, you can use the chat button and let us know. We'll try to answer all those questions. And let's take the other question. Do I have to give up my religious beliefs to meditate?
No, if you're a religious person, I believe it's totally going to enhance whatever philosophy or tradition you practice. If you're a Christian, it will make you a better Christian. It will make you a better lover of Jesus and lover of God. If you're a Buddhist, it will make you a better, a Buddhist. If you're a Hindu, it will make you a better Hindu. That you do not need to give up anything. Typically, meditation is just about concentration, focus, opening our heart, expanding our awareness. And so there's nothing that is, these are universal practices. It's nothing that is owned by just one philosophy and tradition. Many people, when they think of meditation, think of Eastern traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism and those sort of practices. But if you read the Bible, there are many quotes in there about meditation. In fact, in the especially in the Old Testament, if you go back to the Old Testament, which is the Hebrew scriptures, there is quotes in there when Abraham went to send out his servant to find a wife for his son Isaac. It specifically says that when they returned, Isaac was out in the field meditating. And even in the Psalms, there's many Psalms where it says, "Meditate on my law morning and night." So there's many methods. There's many references to meditation in the Judeo-Christian scriptures as well. And so if you are a religious person, I believe it's just going to increase whatever path you're on and benefit you in many ways.
That's, I think you cleared the confusion, because many people think that meditation related to Hinduism and Buddhism, so that's restricted to that religion only. That may be a reason actually. That's okay. You answered well actually. One more question from our guest, Toya Howard. How are you, Toya? Nice to see you here. Her question is it okay to use music or water sounds to meditate?
You want to do anything that can help your atmosphere, bring you peace and bring you calm. Now, your question, is it okay to use music? That's, all right, yes and no. If the music is, like you're saying, water sounds, nature sounds, if it's chants of like mantras or something like that, that can be useful, especially if you don't know maybe what the chanting is about. But when you say music, I would never recommend you put on the radio in the background while you're trying to meditate, because let's say you're meditating and now all of a sudden your wedding song comes on. Well, all it's going to do is bring up memories of that day and create a busier mind. It's going to create pictures, it's going to create thoughts, it's going to create images, and we don't want to do that. But yes, nature sounds, new age music that doesn't have any words to it, those sort of things can be helpful to relax and calm the mind. So those sort of sounds or music would be okay. but nothing like no bands with the lyrics and those sort of things. That wouldn't be beneficial.
Okay. Nothing like a prayer kind of thing? Any prayer? There is some lyrics in the prayer or something?
Well, mantras could be okay. So prayers and sort of those things can be okay because it gets you into a sort of reverent space. But that would be okay. But I'm talking about like no Beatles songs, no artists or anything like that that is going to create sort of images and mental pictures and those sort of things.
Okay, great. So can meditation really improve my health?
Oh, 1000%. I would not have made the shift from traditional medicine to meditation and mindfulness if I didn't see the benefit that this brings. And every single day, it seems that there's new research coming out of how beneficial it is to our body, our mind, our emotions, and our soul. So it brings well-being to every aspect of yourself. So from a physical standpoint, you touched upon a few of them in the beginning, but it increases our immune system. It does help us live longer. There's research by Elizabeth Blackburn, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for her research with something called telomeres, which are the ends of our chromosomes, and an enzyme known as telomerase. And meditators have a higher rate of this enzyme telomerase within their system, which helps to lengthen their telomeres and helps with aging and keeping us younger. So there is evidence with that. It helps with high blood pressure. It helps with cholesterol. It helps with heart disease. It helps with insomnia. It helps with helps us move through difficult emotions. It helps with ADHD. It helps with panic disorders, stress, anxiety. So yes, it definitely has many benefits. And like I said, every single day, new research is coming out. But the other thing that I did mention earlier was, if anyone's interested, Google Harvard meditation study with Dr. Sarah, S-A-R-A, Lazar, L-A-Z-A-R. And she has proven through meditation research that we actually grow our brain. We create new neurons, we create new gray matter, and we keep our brain healthier and younger, and the mass of the brain stays very, very healthy. So yes, absolutely, there is huge benefit to meditation on all aspects of ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Let us take a guest question actually. Could you tell us
Sure.
about the 5 obstacles that you mentioned when you were asked about falling asleep? Can you
Yes,
reiterate
there are
about
5 obstacles.
Mhm.
Yep, there are 5, according to meditation traditions, that everyone is going to come into contact with. When everyone tries to meditate, there are 5 things that they need to overcome. The first one is attachment. Attachment means when pleasurable experiences, when bliss and peace and all of these things come into our life, we attach to it and we crave it and we want it and we desire it. And if we have an attachment to our meditation, what actually happens is it creates obstacles and it creates it from unfolding for us as it should. So when we go into meditation, we shouldn't go in craving anything. We should just go in and allow ourselves to be and just be present. And whatever shows up is what's meant to show up. So don't have an attachment or a craving for anything. But the second thing is, don't have an aversion towards anything. So if you're sitting there and no peace is coming, but you're feeling restless, bored, or anything like that, just allow the moment to be as it is. We don't want to have an aversion. We don't want to say, oh, I don't like this. I don't want this. I wish things were different right now. We want to be able to be with whatever is the moment is presenting to us. However it is, we don't want to change it. So the first one is attachment. The second one is aversion. The third one is sleepiness, falling asleep, drowsiness. We have to overcome that. The fourth one is restlessness, the opposite of sleepiness and drowsiness. So restlessness is nothing more than just an excitation of energy. So sometimes we might be sitting in our meditation, all of a sudden we set our timer for 20 minutes, and after a couple of minutes we start getting restless. We say, oh, I can't sit here anymore. I got to get up, I got to move around. Well, that just means that energy is moving, energy shifting. Our thoughts might be a little bit racing, so we get a little bit restless in the moment. But we need to overcome that one too. And then the last one is doubt. Now, when they talk about doubt, there's two forms of doubt. There's a healthy doubt in which we, question things, so we don't just believe everything we read or everything we hear or everything that's told to us. We might doubt it, so we go do the research ourselves to find out if it's really true. But the doubt that they mean in meditation is when you're sitting there and now little thoughts arise. Is this really doing anything for me? Maybe I should have started when I was younger. Maybe I'm too old to start meditating. Those sort of doubts are ones that we have to overcome. And the way to overcome them is really by knowing the research. Like I was saying to you, knowing what it does for blood pressure, knowing what it does for heart rates, knowing what it does to our brain, knowing what it does, then we have the ability to say, oh, well, even if I don't see any results after this week, I know that if I do this for a couple of months, I'm going to have a totally new brain in my head. That can help us get through those moments of doubt.
Okay, great. Thank you. I hope Mala must have got the answer.
You're welcome.
So let us take another guest question. What is the biggest challenge to your practice?
That changed throughout the years. So there was always some challenge that I had to overcome. When I first started meditation, I was caught up in the world. I was going into medical school and all these sort of things. And so my biggest challenge when I was first starting was I would always say, oh, I don't have the time. I'm too busy today. I gotta do this. I gotta study for these exams. I gotta read all these books. I gotta go do my rounds, whatever it was. And so when I was starting, the biggest challenge for me was making the time. But I realized that if I was too busy, that's when I needed to meditate the most to help me through those moments, to get me centered, to give me the patience and the centeredness to move throughout my day. And so that was one challenge that I had early. Then other challenges that I would have was actual sleepiness and restlessness. Some of my times in my meditations, I would fall asleep. And so I needed to overcome that. And I needed to do my practice enough so that I was realizing when I was actually meditating or when I was getting too sleepy and falling asleep and overcoming that. Because sleepiness is just nothing that as the body begins to relax, as your mind relaxes, your body relaxes, the natural energy within it begins to slow down. And when that happens, we can fall into a sleep state. But with meditation, we want to be relaxed, but the mind is still alert. And so that was another one. Sleepiness and making the time were the two biggest obstacles I had.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let me ask them one question. And the question is, are you learning something today? And is it really interesting to learn, or is it really helpful? Is it really very important for you? And how many of you who do not meditate till now will start doing the meditation from tomorrow or as early as possible? Just use the chat button and let me know. How many of you will start meditating as soon as possible? From tomorrow, maybe? And the information provided, is it worth your time? Everybody, please answer. How many will start the meditation from tomorrow? Are you sure that you will start from tomorrow, right? Or it will be a sleeping meditation? Thank you. Great. Everybody is ready to start the meditation from tomorrow. That's good. Why not from today?
Because you said tomorrow.
That's great. So, one question from the guest: doesn't it help to focus on the air filling in your stomach?
For some people. Now, when we're observing the body breathe in a mindfulness practice where we're watching the breath and we're noticing the inhalation and exhalation, for many people, it can be difficult to try to watch the body breathe. So what you can do is you can notice where you're feeling the breath. So sometimes, there are people that can actually feel the movement of air go in and out of their nose. They actually feel the air maybe even hit the back of their throat, or they might notice that it's sort of a cooler air on the inhalation and then a slightly warmer air on the exhalation. So they can pay attention to the breath happening there, or they pay attention to the breath moving past their upper lip. But for many people, this area is too small and too subtle, and it's still hard to try to find the breath. So what you can do is you can notice where you're feeling the breath, maybe in the rise and fall of your chest, or the expansion and contraction of your belly or your abdomen. And you can watch the breath moving that part of the body. And if you wish, you could even gently place a hand on your chest or place a hand on your belly or an abdomen, and then ride the wave of breathing. Feel the breath moving the body, and just try to pay attention to breath happening there. So for many people, yes, watching the breath move the belly, or even watching the breath, some people, they say follow it as it moves down to the belly. Now, breath doesn't really go in the belly. We know it goes into our lungs. But what happens is when you breathe, your belly expands and then contracts. So for many people, it is helpful to watch the movement of that. And in fact, in the Zen tradition, sometimes breath awareness is referred to as navel gazing because they watch the movement of breath in the belly area. So yes, that is very helpful for some. Another thing that's helpful, though, for some people is counting the breath. So when you're breathing in and breathing out, you think to yourself silently 1. And then when you breathe in and you breathe out, you think to yourself silently 2. And just go up to 10. Because if you were to count out into infinity, you'd get distracted, your mind would wander, you'd get, but if you just keep it short intervals, it can be very, very helpful for somebody to try to be aware of the breath. And then you just, whenever the mind wanders, just refocus again on watching the belly or watching the chest or going back to counting. Good question, though.
Okay, good. Now let's take a question on mindfulness. What is mindfulness?
Sure. Mindfulness is awareness. It's where is your attention? It's totally being present to something. So if you're cooking, your mind is just totally focused on what it is you're doing, whether it's chopping vegetables, stirring a pot. If you're walking, you're just 100% present to walking. The Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, he refers to mindfulness, his definition of mindfulness is the energy that allows us to be there 100%. Now, in the United States, there's a very well-known mindfulness teacher whose name is Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he's a professor at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And he refers to mindfulness as mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment, non-judgmentally. So what we're doing is we're just being totally present to the moment without wishing it was any type of way or wishing it was different than what it is, but just being totally aware and present to whatever life is presenting to us and whatever activity that we're doing. So it's really just all about your awareness.
Okay. So the only difference between meditation and mindfulness is that in meditation, you are doing nothing actually. And in mindfulness,
yes, when you hit the state of meditation, when you're actually in the state of meditation, you're not focused on anything. You're just totally absorbed in the present moment. So sometimes they refer to the differences between meditation and mindfulness is that meditation, when you are actually in the state of meditation, you're focusing on nothing or no thing. But in mindfulness, you're focusing on something. Now, the other thing that they do have, to throw a little wrench in the wheel, is that they do have a term mindfulness meditation. Now, mindfulness meditation is that when we're actually in a formal meditation practice doing our mindfulness techniques. But, you can be mindful while you're driving, be totally present to driving, noticing where you are, what road you're going down, but you shouldn't be practicing meditation while you're driving.
For being positive, do I have to meditate every day?
Yes and no. There's other research out there that there are other methods and there are other modalities that can increase your positivity and can increase your happiness. Now, meditation does 100% increase our positivity, increase our outlook, increase our happiness, all of those things. In fact, there's a very good book by a man here in the United States. His name is Dan Harris, and he was actually a news anchor who was totally skeptical of meditation and then began to practice it. And his book is called 10% Happier because it increased his outlook and increases positivity. But there are other practices such as gratitude practice, where every day we wake up and we try to find something that we're grateful for, which also has been shown to increase our happiness. And when you're practicing gratitude practice, you're not meditating. So there are other things that you can do to increase your positivity and your happiness as well. But meditation is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, other than meditation, I think if we practice the habit of gratitude, that is very, very powerful. And compassion, forgiveness, there are some other things we should definitely do.
You are absolutely right. I agree with you 1,000%. There are many of those things, compassion practices, forgiveness practices, all of those things which increase our positivity, increase our outlook. Yes.
How can we stop negative emotions and thoughts from entering our minds?
To be honest, you really can't stop them from entering. If I was to say to you now, we really don't control our thoughts. If I was to ask any of the people that are here on this webinar with us right now, is your next thought going to be positive or negative? You really couldn't tell me until it came into your mind. Or if I asked you, is your very next thought going to be of the past or the future? You really couldn't tell me until it comes into your mind. So let's be honest. If we really controlled our thoughts or what came into our head, after we had one negative thought in our life, would we ever think a negative thought again? No, we wouldn't, but they still come. The only thing that we can do is that when they do come, refocus our attention, bring it somewhere else. So when we're meditating on an object, if we're using the breath or we're using a mantra, and then we notice that a negative thought arises, the only thing that we do is we just refocus our attention back to the breath or back to the mantra or whatever it is that we're using. So what we can do is shift our attention. We cannot stop the negative thoughts from arising, but what we can do is once they do arise, shift to something else.
You mean we should be aware actually what we are thinking all day long, right?
To the best of our
aware what we are thinking.
Yeah, to the best of our ability, we should. We should try to be as mindful as we can of every thought that enters our mind.
Okay, one interesting question from a guest. Are retreats an effective way to get started or to improve meditation practice?
Absolutely. If you have the opportunity and you have the luxury that you can go on an extended retreat, that will definitely help you to understand what you're doing, give you time to practice. It will give you time to not focus on things that are going on in your life. It will get you away from the distractions of home. So if you could go on a retreat, I would highly recommend that. However, I guess your question was to get started. Yes, to definitely get started, you would. However, you do want to be able to meditate wherever you are. So you shouldn't just use retreats as your way to only meditate, because then, you'll be at home and you'll say, oh, well, I don't have the luxury of being away. I don't have the luxury of being somewhere where my distractions are, and I can't meditate here. You eventually want to be able to meditate anywhere you are, every place you are, even if it's out in the midst of chaos, you want to still be able to meditate. There's a man whose name was Alan Watts, and he was from the UK. But he has said if you can't meditate in a boiler room, you can't meditate at all. So you want to be able to meditate in any environment that you're in, if it's, to truly do it. But to definitely jumpstart your practice, if you can go on a retreat or attend an extended retreat, it will definitely help you to get started.
That's very interesting. And Stephanie, I think whenever you want to go on a retreat, definitely you can contact us, Culture Holidays. We are the best people on earth to provide you the retreat or this kind of experience, because we have many tours, some unique kind of tours, where we also provide meditation, a daily practice on the day, as well as some other interesting transformation sessions. So you can contact us whenever you are serious, whenever you want to try a retreat or something. Don't forget Culture Holidays. Thank you very much. And one more question on mindfulness. Mindfulness comes on its own, or do you have to practice it daily actually?
Mindfulness comes through practice. Our awareness and our attention are something that we need to cultivate. Sadly, when I was going to school, as a child, I was yelled at by teachers to pay attention, and I understood what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to learn. They wanted me to focus. However, Eastern traditions believe that we don't know how to pay attention, and we have to learn how to cultivate the ability to pay attention. And so mindfulness, which is our awareness and being mindful of our activities and our life and our thoughts and all those things, it takes practice to cultivate the concentration and focus that mindfulness really is talking about. So it will come on its own, but practice is the way for it to arise.
Okay, one more question from the guest. How do I choose a mantra? And should I change it up?
There is debate on this question. This is a difficult one to answer. Some would say that you should never choose your own mantra. Some would say that you have to be given a mantra by a very good teacher who's been practicing for a long time, because he has the mental clarity to see what mantra would be best for you on the journey or the point of your life that you're currently at. However, there is another side to this who says, no, you can be perfectly fine choosing your own mantra. And let's say there's one that, maybe you want to bring abundance into your life, so you use a Lakshmi mantra, or maybe there's one in which you want to overcome an obstacle, so you'd use a mantra associated with Ganesh or something like that. And so there might be a time in your life that you would choose one based on what you want to bring into your life. How long you should use it for, you should use it until you begin to see the results that you want. So, once you see the results arising, then you would know, okay, my mantra is working. There are some mantras that people use for their entire lifetime, though. So you might need to use a specific mantra for the entire time that you do practice. In fact, Transcendental Meditation, TM, which is a mantra-based meditation, they give you a mantra within their organization, and then you're supposed to use that mantra forever. That's the mantra you're supposed to use.
Okay, good. Anthony, it has been very, very good actually so far, because I think many people have learned a lot from this. Is it okay that do you want to give some kind of practice of meditation, or shall we continue with the questions?
I would like to do that. I would like to give them a short practice that they can use, that they can take home. We won't sit for a long time. We can sit for like 5 minutes or so, a little more. And then if there's still time, we can do some questions afterwards. But let's give them a practice. Let's sit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree. I agree.
So,
Yes.
so what we can do is I invite you now to just find any position or posture that's comfortable for you. And so just sit in, if you're sitting, just sit in what is again referred to as a dignified posture, and that's just your back is a little bit straight. If you do need to lay down, you may, because I'll guide the entire practice. And since we've been talking for a little time, first let's just begin by taking a couple of deep, long breaths together. So I invite you to take a long, deep breath in, and then slowly exhale or sigh your breath out. And take another long, deep breath in, slowly exhale or sigh your breath out. And take one more long, deep breath in, slowly exhale or sigh your breath out. And now if your eyes aren't already closed, I invite you to close your eyes. Leave your hands in any position that's comfortable for you. You can leave them on your lap or resting on your thighs or folded in your lap. And now at this point, just allow your breath to settle to whatever its natural or regular rhythm is in this moment. So you're no longer controlling or regulating your breath like we did with those 3 breaths, but you're just trying to allow the body to breathe on its own. Just let your inhalation and exhalation be in and out of the nose. And just try to observe the process of breath happening. The only agreement you make with yourself is that whenever the mind wanders, you just gently and lovingly refocus the mind back on the breath. Now, to help you connect to the breath a little bit more, you can see where you can best feel your breath. And so some of you might be able to feel the breath as it moves in and out of the nose, or maybe some air along the upper lip. But for others, it might be more helpful to notice the rise and fall of the chest, or the expansion and contraction of the belly or abdomen. If you wish, you can gently place a hand on your chest or your belly to feel the movement, and just sort of ride the wave of breathing. It's a beautiful way to help connect you to the breath. And now we're not trying to judge our breathing. So if your breath is fast, that's fine. If it's slow, that's fine. Don't think you need to change it in any way, but just try to observe the breath however it is. So if you're breathing very shallowly, you don't need to start thinking, ooh, maybe I need to take some deeper breaths. That's a judgment. We want to leave the judging mind out of it. Our breath is the anchor to this present moment, the only moment we're truly alive in. And so when we return back to the breath, when the mind begins to wander, we're returning back to this moment, back to reality. Because we don't breathe in the past, and neither do we breathe in the future. Every breath we take is happening right here and now. And so the only agreement you make with yourself is that whenever the mind wanders, you just gently and lovingly return yourself back to the breath. If you're having a lot of thoughts, if the mind is filled with thoughts, that's okay. The mind's just doing what it's been created to do, and that's think. We're not trying to battle with the mind. We're not trying to suppress our thoughts. just whenever we notice that the mind has wandered, the only agreement we make is that we just gently return ourselves back to the breath. And also, when we inhale, we should notice that the belly is expanding. And then as we breathe out, we notice that the belly contracts. So if you're being aware of your breath in the movement of the body sensations, it's a very helpful way to keep us centered on the breath. And now we're just going to sit for another moment. And now I invite you to take a long, deep breath in. Slowly exhale out. Maybe bring some gentle movement back to your body by wiggling your toes or fingers. And whenever you feel ready, slowly begin to open your eyes and make your way back into the space.
Thank you very much for this session. Actually, I think many people must have loved this 5 minutes of meditation.
And imagine what it can do if we did 20 minutes.
So let me just ask them a small and quick question. Actually, how many of you were able to meditate? Actually, even if for a few seconds, were you able to meditate? Actually, when you are not thinking, when you are in present moment. So just use the chat button and let me know. Some people are saying, most of the people I think are saying that they felt very good and they were able to meditate even for a few moments. That's okay.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, what you're doing with meditation is it's like learning a new language. It's like learning to play an instrument. So don't think that you're going to sit down. I hope no one thinks like if they were going to learn the piano, that they're going to sit down and the very first time they try to play a piano, play a Beethoven symphony. It's not going to work like that. It's going to take time and it's going to take practice. You got to learn the scales and you got to learn chords and you're going to do all these sort of things before you could really play Beethoven. And it's the same with meditation. So right now, just sitting, you might only experience just a brief second or two before the mind starts thinking and wandering, and then you got to come back, and then you're watching the breath, and 2, 3, 4 breaths, then it goes off again. And so, learning to meditate is is sort of like training a puppy. So if we had a little puppy right now that we want to train, and we want to train it to stay, we're going to take the puppy, we're going to put it on some paper, and we're going to tell it, all right, now stay there. But the puppy has no idea what that command means. So it goes running off the paper and it goes going everywhere else. And then we got to keep getting it and bringing it back to the paper over and over and over again, telling it to stay. And then it goes running off in another direction. We go get the puppy and keep bringing it back. And the more we practice, the more we train that puppy, eventually there comes a time where it learns, okay, I'm going to stay on the paper, and it learns the command. And it's the same with our mind. Right now, our mind is this little untrained puppy, and the breath in this example was where we wanted our mind to stay. But right now, for many people, we haven't taken the time to really train our mind. So when we put our mind on the breath, it goes wandering off. It goes to think about a thought of the past. Well, just go get it. Bring it back to the breath. And then it goes running off to a thought of the future. Just go get that little puppy mind, keep bringing it back to the breath, back to we're calling the paper, back again, over and over and over again. And there will come a time, depending on how long you practice and how dedicated you stay with the practice, that the mind will learn to stay where you want it to stay. And that's where meditation truly does begin, is when it's there, just present.
Yeah, that's exactly, because that may be a boring for some people actually, but I think if at least you can give 5 or 10 minutes in the beginning, and then gradually 15-20 minutes is more than enough. If it is giving so many benefits, health benefits, emotional benefits, mental benefits, if there are so many benefits and it's making your life easier, then I think there is no harm in spending 10 minutes every day.
No, I agree. It's the best 10 minutes we could spend.
Okay, so one more question. What is guided meditation, and is it okay always to use a guided meditation?
A guided meditation was basically what we just did, where someone speaks to you and tries to guide you either through a practice, or maybe there's a guided visualization in which they're asking you to maybe picture something, and they can be very, very helpful in the beginning for beginners. But they can be helpful for other people as well. But they can be helpful to get you started with the practice, so that it's a constant reminder. If a voice keeps saying to you, every time your mind wanders, just bring it back to the breath, it can be very helpful for you to learn how to meditate. Because sometimes we can be focused on the breath, the mind wanders. And if there's no guidance, it could be wandering for minutes before we realize, oh, wait, I have to go back to the breath again. So guided meditations are good ways to start, and they are very, very helpful for people who are beginning their meditation practice. And you can find them anywhere. I mean, you can go to my website, or you can go to YouTube, or you can go to, Google guided meditations and find many meditations that are out there.
And about the mantra, how do you find a mantra?
One, you can find them through a teacher, or two, you could just Google or buy a book on mantras and find mantras that are out there. There's many, many books on mantra meditation. There's many books on mantras. There are, but again, you don't need to go to a book. You can go to Google or something like that. But what you want to figure out is mantras are like keys. So a mantra carries a very specific vibration. They're very powerful sacred words, spiritual words, because the original mantras came from the language of Sanskrit. And these are very, very powerful vibrations and frequencies that help you get somewhere. And so, like Om Namah Shivaya is considered a very powerful mantra that helps to energize you and awaken you and all of these sort of things. And so that's it carries a very specific vibration that mantras begin to attune or reattune your vibrational frequency. So you begin to vibrate at the frequency that the mantra has. And so what you really want to think about is, what do you want a mantra for? And so let's say you want a mantra to connect you to God, then you need the right mantra for that. A Lakshmi mantra is one that's going to usually bring prosperity and abundance. As I said before, the Ganesh mantras are ones to overcome obstacles. And so you want to know what you want, or what you want the mantra to do, so you have the right key to get you there.
That's very interesting, Anthony. Actually, I think you know more than the Indians actually know about the mantras.
Well, I consider India my second home. I love it. I love that country. I love it. I can't wait to go back. I'm sad about the whole sort of state of the world right now, where travel is banned, because I always look forward to my time. I've been going to India every year, and I always look forward to my time in that country.
Okay, so one quick question. Can you teach us how to breathe for inhaling and exhaling?
Yes.
Or if inhale, the belly should be out?
Yes. When you breathe in, the belly should be expanding. And then when you exhale and breathe out, the belly should be collapsing. That's the proper breath pattern. So, and in fact, it's innate. If you watch a baby in the crib or lying down, you notice that when it breathes in, its belly goes out. And when it breathes out, the belly collapses. So that is the right way to breathe. What sadly happened with many people, is that we've become shallow breathers. We don't take full deep breaths anymore. Now, there's many theories on why this is happening, but some people say it started to happen with the invention of the belts, that the belt would constrict our belly and our abdomen so it couldn't fully breathe out as it used to. But to answer that question, the proper way to breathe is when you inhale, the belly expands. When you breathe out, the belly contracts.
Okay, thank you. I think we have answered most of the questions actually. If any other questions, if our guest is having, or maybe if we have not answered any of the questions, please use the chat button and let us know so that we can answer that question also. Anybody is having any question? Please send the questions. So in the moment, I think if they are having any questions, we can wait for that. Otherwise, let me ask you this. How much time, if I ask you personally, how much time do you meditate every day?
I meditate for quite a few hours every day. I typically wake up, because I lived in monasteries, like they wake us up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I've tried to keep that schedule. Now, sometimes I don't because I do have a young son. So it depends. But typically I wake up around sunrise, before sunrise, and meditate for an hour. Then if I have classes throughout the day, I meditate with the groups or my classes. And then I usually meditate an hour before I go to bed. So on average, I meditate about 3 hours, 4 hours a day.
For how many years you are meditation?
Well, I've been practicing for 20, but I haven't been doing that for that long. That's just been the past few years that I've been able to do it, because at least 5 or 6 years, because I started teaching meditation about 6 years ago. And so and the only reason why I meditate more now is because I teach so many classes. So I'm meditating with people. And so now that's why my numbers went up. But it used to be, before I was teaching, I used to just meditate about 2 hours a day, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day.
Very interesting. Very, very difficult job you are doing in the earth, actually. 3 hours meditation. Okay. So one guest is asking, can you repeat the mindful meditation definition, please?
Sure. All right. Mindfulness is basically just being aware of something. It doesn't matter. So if we're walking, we're just totally present to walking. If we're cooking, we're just totally present to cooking. Meditation is typically where we're being aware of nothing or no thing. We're just totally absorbed in the present moment. Now, mindfulness meditation is typically where we're in a formal meditation practice. So we're seated, or we're going to take some time out of our day to practice a mindful meditation in which we will be aware of something in a sort of formal practice. So that would be mindful meditation.
I think, Yvonne, you must have got your answer, right? Okay. Is it okay to meditate first thing in the morning or the last thing before going to the bed?
Everybody is different. Now, ideally, they say it's best to do both. To start your day in the morning, the first thing when you get up, and meditate, and then close your day with meditation before you go to bed. So you're like bookending. You're starting and ending your day with meditation. They would say that would be the best thing to do. But if the question is really, what's the best time to meditate? you might have to adjust that for yourself. Some people are morning people, some people are night people. So some people don't really like to get up early and do anything first thing. They need to have their coffee, they need to take a shower, they need to do whatever it is they need to do. But many people, if they've had a good night's sleep, now not everybody does, but if you've had a good night's sleep, when you wake up, your mind is very refreshed. It hasn't started anything yet. It hasn't gone about your day. So for many people, that would be the ideal time to meditate, is right at that moment, because even the brainwave activity is coming out of a sleep state. And so it's not caught up in conscious mind, worried mind yet. It's ready to, it's still in sort of like a relaxed state. So a morning time is actually very, very good to meditate. But then there are other people that like to do it right before they go to sleep because it helps the mind to quiet down. It helps their body to relax, which can help them get a better night's sleep. So it is okay to meditate at any time, even if you wanted to meditate in the afternoon. Some people do it because it gives them a little bit of energy, helps them get through the midday hump. So whatever time you can find time to meditate is the best time to meditate.
One question, which is mine actually: how long it will take to go to the alpha state and theta state?
Now that's a great question. They typically say, research says that it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to begin to reach the alpha state. So that's why they ideally say you should meditate for about 20 minutes a day, because it takes about that much time, or a little bit before, for the brain waves to move out of the beta, which is conscious mind, worried mind, analytical mind, and slowly begin to move into the alpha. From after alpha, there is another state that you mentioned called theta, which is a very deep, rejuvenative meditation state. It's one where, you know, the body begins to heal itself within the theta brainwave activity. And also long-term meditators or master meditators who can get into theta, they don't need as much sleep as they once did because they're getting refreshed and rejuvenated within that theta brainwave activity. That typically takes a little bit longer, or a lot of practice. Once you begin to practice meditation more, build up the concentration and focus, there are master meditators that can get into theta pretty quick, but it does take a little bit of dedication to the practice to get there.
I think, Anthony, we have answered most of the questions, and if any of you is having any question, maybe later in the after this session, you can just send us an email and we'll be very happy to answer you also. And first of all, thank you very much to all of you for taking your time out this morning.
Yes,
and
thank
we are
you.
very, very grateful to you. And I hope that just taking a seminar or just listening to the advice or information is not the solution actually. When you start doing it in a daily practice, then it will change your life. Information is not enough. Implementation of information is required. So I hope that all of you will take the benefits of this meditation, and especially in this time when it is definitely needed for everyone, for every family. And just tell your loving other people also, to your friends also, to your colleagues also, how useful this meditation is. And we are always here to welcome your questions. And thank you very much, Anthony. And we look forward to having you again in another session. And we hope to organize another webinar on a different topic very soon, which will be definitely, again, very useful information, so that for your business, for your health, for wellness, for success, for anything. And we will be inviting you again, and we hope to see you again very near in the future. Till then, thank you very much.
Yes.
Goodbye. Thank you very much, Anthony, for your time.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here with you and everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.